Welcome back, everyone. This is Coach David here with Lobos Rush. I am joined once again by Dr. Trevor Ling and his beautiful wife, Amanda Ling here, where this is part 2 of our athlete well-being series. We're going to go over overtraining, overcompeting, and under recovery, and then a little bit about nutrition, which is always a big one for me, especially my age. So, Trevor, if you want to give us a little bit more background about you, and then Amanda, definitely introduce yourself and give us your background and why we have you here.
Okay, so again, I am Dr. Trevor Ling. Amanda and I own a physical therapy practice here in Collierville, Tennessee. My background is in soccer. I played throughout grade school, high school, into college with Coach David here, and have been working at growing our business for the active individual, including your teams and your parents and all of those people who are trying to stay active and healthy without having to have injuries or leading into having to stay on the sidelines.
Okay. So I am Trevor's wife, Amanda. I'm actually a physical therapist as well. We met in school in Virginia. I'm not originally from this area. So originally doctorate in physical therapy, but as we practiced and grew our clinic, we realized that a big missing piece to the healing and recovery puzzle for most of our clients was all of the other things that they did outside of maybe the 2 or 3 hours a week they spent with us. A big part of that is nutrition, what they were putting in their bodies, how they were recovering in terms of sleep and stress. So I actually became a certified nutrition specialist in order to add that piece to the puzzle for our clients.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for the background. Thank you for kind of putting the lineage there of like, hey, I was here and now here, because nutrition is a major part now in anything athletics, or just in life in general. How for case in point, the food pyramid has flipped essentially from when we were growing up. So having that expertise from you will be brilliant in this series, because I'll need it, and then I'm sure others will need it, because what's that new saying that bodies aren't made in the gym, they're made in the kitchen with what you're eating and how you're refueling and taking care of yourselves or yourself that way. So want to go into it. We're going to go a bit into the over competing, overtraining, and under recovery. A big point of emphasis now with U.S. soccer, and when coaches are going through their licensing from the D all the way to the A, is periodization, meaning we don't want to go hard 100% every day, because those kids, those players, adults, teenagers, the younger ones, will just get fatigued, which will lead to breakdowns, injuries, and things like that. And there's this natural curve of, they're trying to peak here on a game day, and then recovery, and then they're trying to hit that upslope again. How do we form our sessions? How do we give the recovery time? How do we plan our training sessions to kind of fit that role, or that upslope? And it goes into the overcompeting and under recovery. There's so much nuance to it. It's not just one way or the this way. And you also take into account you may have 15 to 18 to 20 plus players that are not just doing soccer. They may be doing football, baseball, basketball, band, drama, so many other things that are pulling at these kids. Can we go into that a little bit, talking about the overcompeting and under recovery, and how we can simplify that? I know this is asking a lot. Simplify that for the parents and those kids to where they're not just overwhelmed and trying to go all 100% all day, every day. So.
Yeah. Separating out a little bit the overtraining side versus recovery, under recovery. Because it's really 2 different pieces to the puzzle. So I know Trevor has more of, probably as an athletic trainer, has more to say about the overtraining part.
Right. So just in generalization, or I don't envy the coaches at all, because what you just explained, David, that's why in college, and I think you said you didn't play in college, right?
Correct. I did not.
Which is part of it. I just read an article about burnout, and that overtraining is part of burnout, and how athletes don't want to move on, even though they love the sport. And obviously you love the sport because you got back into it. So in college, there are separate coaches who just work on periodization. The strength and conditioning coach, they are working with the coaches and how to develop that. So asking y'all's coaches and through your licensure to work on that is kudos to y'all because you learn about it. But second, is hard to implement because, like you said, there's 18 to 20 athletes that you're dealing with on a daily basis and a weekly basis that you're trying to all fit into this curve who are dealing with multiple variables. So when you look at traditional periodization, there was 4 phases that I kind of had learned was endurance, intensity, then the competition, like you said, hitting that upslope. But then the 4th part of that is recovery, which is I'll let Amanda delve into more about that. But there's only so many variables that you can manipulate. And you can tell me, David, are y'all teaching any sort of strength training? Because that's where the whole periodization kind of came through. I know you're doing, like we talked about last time, the activation part for the warm up, but are y'all doing strength training or giving strength programs?
We don't. That usually goes to the high schools. I mean, Christian Brothers does a good one. I know Bartlett High School does a good one. And we really rely on, just because we don't have the facilities to do it, we really rely on those high schools and those players to do it on their own. Now, I've been asked multiple times from players from 7th grade up of, hey, can I get a good strength and conditioning program? And I just give them my what I did at Delta State when I was coaching there. Just say, hey, don't try to do what these 21-year-olds are doing, but this is kind of a program that you'll be doing at this time of the season, in the summer, things like that. And there are kids that do stuff on their own, but we don't have one specifically for our membership. And that's pretty much just because we don't have the facilities for it. I would love to bring in someone who could do that and tailor things to our membership for that. But we also have, we have SPART training, which is speed. I can't remember the acronym, what it stands for, agility, reaction. We used to have that. We have our coaches that do that on their own, but nothing really strength where they're getting some weights and things like that, especially for those high schoolers, to answer your question. Yeah.
And but is part of, what are those pillars that y'all use in your club? I remember talking about the pillars of training, stuff like that.
Say that again. You kind of broke up there. I couldn't hear you.
Last time you discussed the pillars that y'all use that rush in your training, and I thought that was part of some sort of training with that. Do you have pillars of success or something along those lines?
I don't know. You're breaking out. I can see you talking, but it's not coming through your speaker or your microphone. So one more time, if we can, and then we'll go.
Can you hear me now at all? Okay. So previously you had spoken about pillars that y'all use for training and Lobos Rush. And could you just repeat those again? Because I think one of those kind of spoke to this as well. You're on mute now.
On mute. Technical, tactical, physical, and then psychological or psychosocial. So that goes with the physical part of that.
Exactly. And actually, I would say more even the psychological as well when we're dealing with some of the recovery. But even in sports, there was a recent article a couple of years ago with college soccer players and how much that is needed. And when you say you're relying upon the high school coaches to do the periodization of the strength training, it's hard for y'all to then dovetail off of that for that as well. So because of that, I think you hit on it a little bit, is you had some burnout, but you have this short preseason, you have condensed matches, and then you have people who are in high school trying to go to their classes, and then you have decreased sleep and all these other things, which is going to help them recover. And I remember back when we were playing, we talked about it before we started recording, eating poorly, training as hard as we can, and then trying to then compete at the highest level that we can, which is an overtraining. And then even in college, I remember I tell people all the time, I had 3-a-days. We were doing 3-a-days before preseason even started. And then we were being asked to then go and compete on the weekends for college. And that's not sustainable, and then can create burnout as well as injuries. I definitely had nagging injuries in my shortened college career that I was working at, just with strains and sprains and those sorts of things. And I wasn't even one that played all the time. I was a come off the bench guy. But even then, you still had these overtraining problems, and I don't know if I'm really answering questions on how to do it, but it's a matter of it's a very prevalent problem that I think Amanda can speak a little bit more to in that regard.
Yeah.
And I would agree that a lot of it is that psychosocial part, because speaking especially to the teenage athlete, I didn't play soccer, I was a tennis player, but speaking to the teenage athlete, as teenagers, we feel invincible. And I mean, when I look back, I'm over 40 now, I look back at a teenager, I was like, I pretty much was. But the reality is, psychologically, we have to know, we have to do that periodization. We can't compete at our peak and stay there. No Olympic athlete peaks and stays there. The best athletes in the world are taking the time to work on their endurance, build up their intensity, compete at a peak level, and allow themselves to recover.
Yeah.
I like to talk a lot about the concept of, as physical therapists, we hear a lot about the overuse injuries. And the reality is, oftentimes those overuse injuries are actually a result of under recovery. So it's not actually the work they're putting in. So the work that they're putting in could be really good, could be very well planned out, could be prescribed perfectly to them and their age and appropriate. But if we're skipping that fourth recovery part before we build back up, then we're going to end up with injury. And maybe for the high school athlete who feels invincible, maybe it's not the injury we're worried about so much, but the reality is, if we don't recover, we can't perform well either. It's just physiologically, the muscles are endurance. We cannot peak and improve unless we recover. That's when really the magic happens in terms of growing muscle, improving endurance, and improving things like aerobic potential and how your body uses oxygen when you're in a game setting. All of those things actually happen in that little tail end called recovery that we often want to skip.
Yeah.
And I think that in a lot of us, we live in a society where more is better. Yeah. Therefore, there's no time for the recovery. There's no, you go to the gym, nobody stops to stretch. Everybody's running out the door. We're in a hurry. We think that the hard work is the most important part. But if you want your peak, when you compete at peak, if you want that peak to continue rising and your performance to continue to improve, you have to take that recovery seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
From the injury standpoint, I'm guessing one of the main injuries you have in your athletes and a lot of your coaches are those chronic strains, those hamstring pulls, the rolled ankles. Yes, you have the big knee injuries. Someone has an ACL. We talked about that last time with doing the FIFA 11 and those sorts of things. But the thing is that it could be some chronic stress from under recovery that's leading to the nagging strains and sprains that is not going to allow someone to hit that peak. And then they have to actually heal before they can even start going up again. So that's where understanding that from a coach's point of view and from a parent's point of view is like, okay, not that you're trying to put someone in just one sport, but do they need to do 2 sports back to back? Do they need to take a season and recovery almost season in their training right.
Yeah. No, I understand. In kind of an example is we have, excuse me, our older girls coming back from high school now, competing at a very high level with the Houstons, the Briarcrest, the Hutchisons, the Colliervilles, all making it to state. And this week, this literal week, would be a week off for them because they start in 2 weekends playing club at a high level for our Elite 64 play. And it's telling those players, hey, take a week off, or just relax. Don't need to be doing any kind of high intensity things because they just went through a 3-4 month rigorous season, which is what high school is for the girls. And if they want to come right back into it on that Monday after playing in the state, championships that Saturday, have they recovered properly? Have they got the nutrition? Have they taken the steps to, hey, I need to relax. I need to just chill, because more is not always better. And take that time to let their body heal a little bit. And that's a very broad, elongated situation and example, but also go into it. I know I'm guilty more than most probably of not having a cool down stretch or a recovery stretch after a session. I'm guilty of it all the time. And it's something that I need to be more aware of when I'm coaching at the end of a session. Like, boys, you need to circle up and get a good stretch because the next session starts tomorrow. The next game starts now. So that's a smaller kind of way to look at how the recovery is so vital to the athlete well-being and, from preventing injuries and such. So, but yeah, I mean, further than that, I don't know if you all want to go more into that and specific ways of recovering and, emphasize that as well.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about of the girls. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Of the girls having, like, they've performed at the highest level, for them as high school athletes, and they have this 2 weeks before they have to show up and do it again, basically. And really, Trevor talked about having a season off. High schoolers that age, their bodies are super resilient. So, 2 weeks might be plenty for them if they play the card. I think we get into trouble when we think, oh, we have 2 weeks off from soccer, so I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to use this 2 weeks, and I'm going to, guys might be, I'm going to, spend these 2 weeks, and I'm going to build all this muscle in the gym. You're not going to build a bunch of muscle in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Sorry to tell you. Or, girls might be like, oh, well, I need to keep up my training. I'm going to go for, a however many mile run every day, and really continue to stress the body, when in reality there's a better use of that time, those 2 weeks, in order for them to come back stronger, as opposed to being depleted. Because after something like a champion, a tournament or championship, that's what you are. Your body's depleted. And spending 2 weeks is probably sufficient for a high schooler. At over 40, I need more than that, but a high schooler, 2 weeks might be sufficient if they use that for recovery.
Yeah.
That goes to the parent as well, because with our kids getting into sports more now, the parents have to realize that too and not push them during their recovery time. Because I know sometimes we live vicariously through our kids. So I'm talking to myself in this a lot as well. But give them that time to recover. But we're forming habits now so that when they do get our age or into college or even into the higher levels with your athletes, is they're going to know, I've built this habit of building in recovery time and how to do that correctly despite however much time I'm given. And you can be able to then come back at it. So that was just the only thing I wanted to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you see me personally, watching like workout programs for older people, like these people want, 6 weeks. I gotta the next 6 weeks, take a week, just do some stretching, just do some light walking, and in your body, you'll see a better change in your body from just taking that week off. And I think that's a brilliant example of that.
And really, and you have to do that. You will, and I promise you, and I know it's kind of a trust thing, I promise you that you come back better, that you're not going to lose a whole lot in 2 weeks. You're going to come back better. Your body's going to be prepared to, like I said, peak at a higher level, because that's what But what do you actually do? So like, what do you actually do during those 2 weeks? Or I assume during the season, when you talk about that periodization of competing and recovery, I assume that recovery is much shorter, like a day, 2 days.
Yeah.
What would that look like?
So like talking about the chart, like so if we have a game on a Sunday, that's what we're trying to peak at, that one game or that weekend of games. And then that Monday would be I would give boys a day off. You couldn't do a recovery session any other time than that Monday or the day after, because they've already kind of down, you're trying to get that upslope. And if you do a recovery session, I'm sorry, I'm like cutting off the camera here, but it ups it a little bit if you do that recovery session, gets the blood flowing as opposed to just sitting around. Looking at format, if we have a game on Sunday, I usually train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That Tuesday training will be a fitness session, trying to get that blood flowing again, and then maybe another one Wednesday, and that Thursday will be lighter, where it's like a game prep in preparation for maybe a game on Saturday or Sunday as well. But I mean, it's just one of those, trying to taper it or trying to fix it to my player specifically. If I have 18 players, they're all different. They're all, have classes and things like that. So it's really, one solution doesn't fit everyone. And it's almost, hey, okay, you're taking this day off. If I see a player who's just struggling with fatigue for whatever reason, he didn't get enough sleep because he had so much homework the night before. It's like, hey, take the day off. You're off this exercise, so on and so forth. And it's just managing in that way as well. Because I'm nowhere near the scientists behind it like y'all are, or others, and just trying to pick up those cues of like, something's off today. What is it? How can I help with that? And then also, I mean, I have a kid who, if you could just live at the fields, he would, and he would just play soccer 24/7. And I'm having to tell him, like, hey, take a day off, bud. Go play video games. Gosh, God forbid. But take the day off because you just look exhausted. And he really would. He loves the game, and he would do it every second of every day. And it's just like, hey, you need to take a day. You need to take a day, regardless if it's on your own, playing, whatnot. So it varies, and it's tough to really, again, tailor it to the entire team, knowing that these kids go through so much during their day. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, I mean, it would be impossible. It would be impossible for you to kind of dial it in tight for every single team. And I think it's important to put some of it in their hands too. I mean, as high schoolers, they can take some responsibility for their recovery strategy, and how their body feels and how they best recover. One of the things that I do is fitness and nutrition genetic testing. And we can look at, based on your genetics, you recover differently. I mean, there's no way you could see that in your athletes, how long it takes, or how my body benefits from different recovery strategies is different from Trevor's.
Yeah.
And so every one of them could be different. There are some generalizations, but when you really dial that in, everyone is different. There are some, again, generalizations though. One thing I would say is, especially for high schoolers, is that recovery is not the same as rest. So you might have a rest day. You might just have a rest afternoon. I mean, you might play one morning and that afternoon be rest. But rest, laying on the couch and watching Netflix, is different from recovery. So rest is passive. You're just letting your body rest. Recovery is actually an active process, things that you're doing to help your body along in recovering and being able to build and be ready for the next. The biggest thing when it comes to that whole picture is sleep. Trevor mentioned that. I think that's one of the biggest, things for any of us, but I would say probably as teenagers, it's even more challenging. Most of our teenagers need more like 10 hours of sleep. Adults were at like probably 7-8 hours. A lot of them are needing 10 hours of sleep for their body to be optimal, and they're probably not getting that. I can tell you that people say you can't catch up on sleep, but teenagers really can. I was actually talking to a physician about this recently. The teenagers really can sleep in on the weekend and make up for some of what was lost during the week, or take a nap and make up for a little bit of what is lost. Whereas when we get older, we really need that consistent every night. So, when the teenager doesn't want to get out of bed till noon on Saturday, when it works with your schedule, maybe their body truly needs that. It's not necessarily just lazy. I know our daughter just became a teenager, and we're learning this lesson. They might need that to catch up. They might need the nap, and their body might truly need that, because sleep is really important. That's where the hard work is done in recovery. That's when the body is really doing the hard work to clean up and repair. It's also important that we have, like you said, the nutrition on board, because the reason we need recovery is because our body's torn down, muscles torn down, our endurance is shot, our body's tired, our joints and ligaments are overworked, and we have to have the necessary building blocks on board in order to rebuild during the recovery process. And that's a little bit different for everyone too. I would say the biggest thing being hydration. I feel like a lot of our student athletes are performing dehydrated. They're not getting the fluids that they need. There you go. Through their school day, and then in that recovery process as well. If you think of it as the water just kind of flushes everything out, and when we compete and perform, our body produces certain kind of exhaust, like a car, right? And that when that gets stuck in the muscles, that's when we're sore. That's when we have that delayed onset muscle soreness. And the fluid, just getting fluids in, is just going to help kind of clean that out. It's going to help carry things where it needs to go. That's part of the reason why, even though there might be a time to rest, we also do need to do some movement. That's not necessarily getting back on the soccer field on that recovery day when there's not practice. Maybe, it's going for a walk with some friends, or, we
talked about, it might be a mobility workout.
Yeah, it might be doing some mobility. It might be doing some stretches. It might be doing, if you have a friend that goes to yoga, go to yoga with them that day. Things that still keep your circulation. The problem is laying on the couch watching Netflix, you're not having any circulation. And if you don't have circulation, you're not moving that stuff out. Although our body does need some rest, to be able to compete again, we really need recovery. Staying hydrated, important. Continuing to move gently is important. It doesn't, nothing of high intensity. Nutrition wise, I would say,
we can get into more details with that next time. We want just on nutrition.
I would say it's just trying your best as teenagers to eat real food. The things that are going to help you recover are real food. Think the outside of the grocery store. So your recovery foods are going to be on the outside of the grocery store. You go through the produce department, the meat department, even like the frozen fruits and vegetables, dairy department. They're all on the outside. Once you start going up and down the aisles, those things aren't going to help you. The things that are in boxes and bags aren't going to help your body recover.
No. We love sweets. I do personally.
Halloween too.
So how dare you say that, Amanda? You're just crushing me right now. But no, I 100% agree with that. Real food, and in this day and age, it's not really tailored for us to eat real food. So I love that you made that point, because I have kids that joke, let's go to McDonald's. Like, really? Okay. Okay. But 100%, that nutrition part about it is just refueling your body, and the hydrating part about it as well. That's something that we stress now to our boys and girls. Sorry. So you got to take care of yourself there in the kitchen as well, so to speak. And go back on the sleep part, an example I know I heard a few years back, Real Madrid, the small club in Europe. I don't know if anybody's really heard of it. At least I think it was them. They I don't know if it was through the Whoop watches that people have, or some kind of tracker, but they would track the players sleep. And if they got less than 7 hours for whatever reason the night prior, those coaches of those strength and conditioning guys, those nutritionists, like, hey, you need to go take a nap, or hey, you can't train today. And that just goes to that is the main recovery thing, is sleep. I wish I could go for 10 hours these days, but for us, that's 7 to 8 hours, and like you said, for the teenagers, there's 10 hours, and that's tough for them. And you heard it here first. Amanda says it. Parents, let your kids sleep in on the weekend. And I may not be having too many Saturday sessions at 8:30 in the morning anymore because of that. But I'll blame you, and that's all right. We'll go with the science on that. But I love that you gave all the information, and we'll dive more into the nutrition part of it, but how we get that recovery through the nutrition, through sleep, and the difference between recovery and rest. Being a little active, not super active, but being light activity, going for a walk, walking your dog, hanging out with friends, but not getting on the soccer field and going 90 to 100%. That's brilliant information to give these kids and these parents an avenue of how do we do this? How do we, recover as opposed to rest? So I appreciate that so much. Hey, we'll put it, this is how we do it. So. Say that again, Troy. I know you made a joke and I couldn't hear you.
I was just saying, your captains on your teams, I'm sure, would get together on a Saturday and just do yoga, right?
Yeah, they're good now. They're going to throw parties as opposed to coming to training. But that's all right. They're good boys. I trust them right now, at least. But again,
some of your questions in regards to the overtraining or competing versus recovery.
Yeah, I think I dealt with it in the spring with my younger age group. They were in middle school and also playing club soccer as well as middle school soccer, and having them see, hey, I understand you're still playing soccer with middle school. I may think it's not to the level of my training session, but you're still getting that. And I had to come to the realizations, okay, they are still getting touches on the ball. They're still competing. Maybe I can have them sit out this training session because I don't want to cause, any kind of damage or injury to them. And also the parents seeing that as well, of noticing, hey, we maybe shouldn't do this, or we should do this. And not necessarily taking their kids out of other sports, because I don't want to do that, because I think sports gives, so much to the kids physically, emotionally, psychologically, but seeing those signs and understanding that we can't go 100% for every activity every day, or there may be some long-term consequences to that, whether it be a major knee injury or just these nagging hamstring, hip injuries, things that aren't fun as well. So knowing that we give some of that information now to kind of help these parents and the players realize they are human. They are, they are not invincible like we thought we were. But to see these signs of fatigue and things, of overtraining, and then also how they can recover from it better. Whether that's, hey, we did have a middle school game and training. Now, what do I need to do? I need to go load up on, the protein and the carbs, whatever my body best responds to, and then make sure that they get that 8 to 9 hours of sleep if they can. So the information there is brilliant. It's much needed. And I think, not just our membership, but, some of your clients, and this is going to be on YouTube, and hopefully one person pulls something from this that just helps them live a better life, not just be a better soccer player or player in any sport. But I think this is just great information that will just stick with everyone. But with that, I'll let you go. I'll let you, get back to work. But if you want to give us the Peak Potential PT and all your taglines, Instagram, Twitter, of course, I'll put it on the YouTube and we'll pub it up. But if you want to go ahead and give the shout out to everything, again, Dr. Trevor Ling and Dr. Amanda Ling right here, go ahead and pub it up, and then we'll get you out of here.
I think we're just at Peak Potential PT everywhere. So on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
One thing, like you said before, if you're up for it, we can, Amanda can definitely dive a little bit more into the weeds with the nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
But you had already kind of very well succinctly kind of gave the parameters around eating the whole foods and the hydration and everything. And my biggest thing is hopefully this just helps with people building different habits. And I believe if I had built different habits as a overworked, soccer player myself, that I would have been different as far as my competition level and ability to
Oh yeah.
play.
Oh yeah.
I think as young athletes, like there also needs to be, we talk a lot about injury. I mean, we're physical therapists. We talk a lot about injury, but also if their goal is to perform at their best, like they're playing with your club to perform at their best. Otherwise they would just be off, playing rec something. They're with your club because they want to perform at their best.
Yeah.
So maybe they feel invincible and maybe an injury is not on their radar, but if they want to perform their best, they have to take that recovery seriously.
Yeah.
That's when the magic really happens.
Yeah. Brilliant. That says it all right there. And the next time we'll delve more into the nutrition part of it. What's a good pregame meal? What's a good postgame meal? And the thing is, you kind of tailor the nutrition. You'll go through, I don't know the process, but what's best for me, what I should eat may not be best for Trevor, may not be best for you. And how, we can generalize it with the, pregame, postgame and things like that. But then also we can go into the nuances of different types of diets for different, types of people and things like that. One size definitely does not fit all. And I'm learning that very much so. But we'll go more into that the next time in part 3 of our series. But again, I appreciate y'all so much, not just for, being here, but what you're doing in the Collierville community and the Mid-South, broader, and the information and the care and love that y'all give to the community. And that's the big thing, is trying to better not just my membership, our players' lives, but the parents and everyone here as well. So, but I do appreciate it. And I will talk to y'all again soon. We'll see everyone again soon. And we'll get you pubbed up. Thank you so much, Amanda and Trevor.